Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the absolute darkest, most terrifying corners of Japanese folklore to dissect a legend that is so horrifying and so thoroughly cursed that it's actually strictly forbidden to tell. We're talking about a story that doesn't just scare you in the traditional sense, but is said to physically break the mind of the listener. It's known simply as Gozu, or cowhead, and in this explainer, we're going to completely deconstruct this myth, unpacking exactly how a legend this lethal is built, piece by piece, across centuries of history.
So let's just start by asking a very simple question about the absolute limits of human fear. What is the most terrifying story ever told? Just take a second and think about the scariest movie you've ever seen, or the most chilling book you've ever read. You got it? Okay, now multiply that dread by 1,000, because today we're looking at an urban legend rumored to be so deeply traumatic that people who read it or even just hear it spoken aloud are overcome with a fear so immense they tremble violently for days on end until they literally die of fright. The legend claims that just hearing mere fragments of this story can completely shatter your sanity.
But here is the ultimate, mind-bending paradox of the Gozu legend, and honestly, this is the craziest part. Its actual contents are a complete void. There is no official text. None. The most famous scary story in Japan is one that nobody actually knows. Its reputation for pure, unadulterated terror has completely outstripped any known plot. It's the ultimate forbidden narrative, whispered about since the 17th century, where the whole tale is intentionally kept hidden because it's supposedly just that dangerous to human life.
To really understand how this myth operates in the modern era, we have to start with its most famous iteration. It's a terrifying little anecdote known as the school bus trip. Picture this. A school teacher is trying to entertain his bored students during a really long bus drive, so he decides to tell them some ghost stories. But for reasons completely unknown, he crosses a massive line and begins narrating the forbidden tale of Cowhead. Almost immediately, the children begin to scream. They're clutching their ears, turning pale and pleading for their lives, crying out, "Please, sensei, no more!"
The fallout of this storytelling is absolutely catastrophic. The teacher doesn't stop when the kids start screaming. Instead, he falls into this horrible puppet-like trance. His eyes glaze over, and he's compelled by some unseen force to finish the story with increasing manic intensity. When he finally snaps out of it, the bus is screeched to a halt. The driver and all the students have completely passed out, foaming at the mouth. Some of the darker versions of this urban legend even claim that they all died of fright shortly after. And of course, the actual words the teacher spoke, entirely lost. This perfectly cements the terrifying stakes of a story that weaponizes words themselves.
When digging into the research for this, it became really clear that Gozu functions not as your typical run-of-the-mill ghost story, but as what folklorists call a meta-legend. Basically, a meta-legend is a story about a story. The horror doesn't come from a ghost jumping out of a closet, it comes from the heavy, oppressive absence of the story itself. The blank space is the monster. By telling you there's a story out there that's just too scary to even comprehend, it bypasses the logical part of your brain and forces your own imagination to fill that dark, gaping void.
Section 1. Gatekeepers of Buddhist Hell, the Ancient Origins of the Cowhead.
Take a look at this striking yokai artwork. In Japanese Buddhism, the true face of Gozu is a terrible animal-headed demon general. He has the hulking body of an ogre-like Oni and the terrifying, massive head of an ox. He stands alongside his counterpart, Mezu, who has the head of a horse. Together, these two towering, nightmare-inducing figures serve the great king Enma, the supreme ruler of Jigoku, which is essentially the Buddhist equivalent of hell.
So, Gozu is literally the very first face you'd see when you enter hell. Imported to Japan from Indian mythology by way of China, Gozu and Mezu are described as possessing the terrifying strength to literally move entire mountains. And they aren't just standing around guarding the gates, they are the chief torturers and punishers of the wicked. If a soul somehow manages the absolute impossible and escapes from Jigoku, Gozu is the supernatural bounty hunter sent to drag them kicking and screaming back down. The crucial takeaway here is that long before it was an internet creepypasta, Gozu was a deeply ingrained religious symbol of ultimate punishment and inescapable torment.
Section 2. Famine and Ancient Folklore. Horrors born of desperation.
Now check out this depiction of the Gaki, or hungry ghosts. In Buddhist cosmology, these are spirits that live in a parallel realm of completely barren wastelands. They are cursed with these massive, distended bellies, but incredibly tiny, needle-like mouths and throats. This means they can eat anything they want, but they can never, ever find actual nourishment. It's a really visceral representation of starvation, and it perfectly sets the stage for one of the most brutal origin theories of the Gozu myth.
Let's walk through this. Imagine a historical Japanese village dying of extreme, unrelenting hunger. The desperation is so thick, so absolute, that they've eaten all their cows, all their horses, and eventually, tragically, even their pets. Just as there's absolutely zero food left, a peculiar figure wanders into the village, a bizarre being with the body of a man and the head of a cow. Driven utterly mad by the pains of starvation, the villagers don't see a demon, they just see meat. They violently attack the figure, rip him apart, and feast on him. Because of this horrific act of greed and cannibalism, the town becomes eternally cursed, and hell literally descends upon them. You can see how the myth morphs right here from a celestial punisher into a really gruesome cautionary tale about humanity completely losing its morality to hunger.
It is absolutely fascinating how historical reality twists into scary fiction over time. Historically speaking, researchers have noted that in Western Japan, there were these very real, very secret rain-making ceremonies that required sacrificing a bull and throwing its severed head into a river. Speaking of this Gozu ritual to outsiders was considered a strict taboo. So over time, do not speak of the cowhead ritual very likely morphed into do not tell the cowhead story. Now compare that reality to what the modern internet did with this void. Users on the Forum 2 channel started writing these fake true histories like a super grim tale of two feuding villages trying to cover up a horrific string of murders where a killer replaced his victims' heads with cow heads. It's the exact same core motif but reflecting entirely different eras of human anxiety.
Section 3. The evolution of a legend, from rumors to pop culture.
The bizarre journey of this myth actually spans centuries. Back in the 17th century, we start getting those first vague rumors of a lethal story. By the 18th century, texts from the Edo period start mentioning eerie omens of disembodied, floating cowheads appearing on snowy nights. Fast forward to 1965, and the acclaimed sci-fi author Sakio Komatsu publishes a short story actually called Gozu. It was essentially this big inside joke among writers about a story so scary it literally couldn't be written. Then in 2003, cult director Takashi Miike adapted the surreal, creeping vibe of the legend into a Yakuza film. And finally, in the 2000s, internet forums stepped up to collaboratively crowdsource the horror into what it is today.
Honestly, it completely blew my mind to see how creators across so many different mediums realized that the idea of a forbidden story is just far more powerful than any actual narrative they could dream up. It strongly parallels Robert W. Chambers' classic book, The King in Yellow, which is another legend about a text that drives its reader completely insane. Komatsu used it as this brilliant literary prank. Director Takashi Miyake used it to deconstruct the hyper-masculine Yakuza genre, sending his main characters into a surreal, dreamlike hellscape dripping with bizarre bovine imagery. Everyone uses the Gozu title because it instantly, almost magically, evokes a primal, mysterious dread.
Section 4. Psychology of the unknown. Why the blank canvas terrifies us.
Read this quote for a second. We become the authors of our own terror, imagining the most horrific thing we can possibly conceive. That gets right to the heart of the matter. By leaving the story a complete mystery, the legend effectively forces your own brain to invent the worst possible nightmare. Think about it. If someone tells you a ghost story about a vampire or a zombie, you can categorize it, right? You can tell yourself, okay, it's just a movie, it's not real. But when someone says, look, I can't tell you the story because the last person who heard it shook to death in sheer panic, your mind immediately races to imagine what could possibly cause that reaction. You fill that blank canvas with your own deepest, most personal phobias.
Ultimately, when you break it all down, it becomes incredibly clear that Gozu isn't just a ghost story, it is an absolute masterclass in psychological manipulation. It totally exploits our hardwired fear of the unknown. It relies heavily on the forbidden fruit effect. You know, the more you're told you absolutely cannot hear it, the more desperately you want to. It acts as this self-perpetuating engine of horror, where the monster isn't some demon standing at the gates of hell anymore. The monster is human imagination itself. The telling of the rumor is the actual ritual.
I really want to leave you with this final thought for our explainer today. We've traced the cowhead from the fiery gates of Buddhist hell, through the bloody, desperate famines of feudal Japan, all the way up to the surrealist cinema screens and the late-night internet forums of today. The story changes, sure, but the fear remains exactly the same. So the very next time someone leans in close to tell you a rumor that is just too terrible to repeat, I want you to ask yourself, are you really afraid of the cursed story, or are you just terrified of what your own mind is about to show you? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I will catch you on the next one.